Spoonie found it in the portal biome. They'd gone back to the green gold biome from EP20, the one through the stone arch, the one Spike had been last through. Spoonie had been mapping it for 2 sessions, clipboard in hand, cataloging every structure and resource. It was on the 3rd session that he found the chest near the eastern wall of the biome, half buried in a luminous ground cover, inside a banner. Dark red, almost maroon, with a pattern that looked older than the server. Spoonie identified it in under a minute, a war banner. Equipped, it projected a protection field over a radius of 30 blocks. Nothing hostile could enter that radius. No damage, no intrusion, nothing. The base would be completely safe while the banner was active, but whoever carried it couldn't move more than 10 blocks from where they'd planted it. The carrier was anchored. While the banner was up, they weren't going anywhere. Spoonie said, "This changes everything. 1. Person stays, everyone else operates freely. The base is protected permanently during sessions." Spike said, "The person who stays can't mine, can't build, can't explore. They just stand." Their Spoonie said, "They protect the base." Spike said, "For the whole session." Spoonie said, "Yes." Spike said, "Every session?" Silence. Stick said, "Who carries it?" Nobody answered. The debate started. Spoonie argued for rotation. Each of them takes a session. The burden is shared equally. Spike said rotation meant nobody was developing their skills during carrier sessions. Multiplied across the server's life, that was significant lost progress. No rotation, no banner. Stick said, "What if someone volunteers?" More silence. Muggsy hadn't said anything since Spoonie described the banner. He was looking at it, not at the squad, not at the debate. At the banner. Stick said, "Muggsy." Muggsy looked at him. Stick said, "What are you thinking?" Muggsy said, "I'll carry it." Nobody said anything for a moment. Spoonie said, "You don't have to." Muggsy said, "I know." Spike said, "Muggsy, you'd be anchored every session." "While we're out there," Muggsy said. "I know." Stick said, "Why?" Muggsy was quiet for a moment. He looked at the base, at the labeled chests, the reinforced walls, the hill with its indestructible center, the bridge over the ravine. 3 sessions of careful organization. The thing they built, Muggsy said, "Someone should know where everything is." Long silence. Spoonie's grin had gone somewhere else. The specific somewhere it went when Spoonie was trying to process something that the clipboard didn't have a column for. Spike said, "That's not." He stopped. His times were at the lowest they'd been in 26 episodes. Stick said, "Muggsy, you don't have tea." "Oh, stay." Muggsy said, "I'm not staying because I have to." Another silence. Spike said, "We'll come back." Muggsy said, "I know." Spoonie said quietly, "Every session." Muggsy said, "I know." Nobody argued after that. Muggsy planted the banner at the center of the hill, right beside the indestructible block, the one Stick had placed in EP24. The protection field extended outward, 30 blocks in every direction. The base was completely covered. Muggsy stood beside it, arms crossed, looking at the valley. The rest of the squad headed out, through the bridge, past the ravine, toward the deep caves and the portal biome, and everything still unmapped. Muggsy watched them go. Lumi was at the hill when Stick came back. She was sitting near the banner near Muggsy, who had his arms crossed and was looking at the valley the way he always did. Except now, he wasn't going anywhere. Stick sat beside Lumi. He volunteered. Stick said, "Nobody asked him to." "Can I tell you something?" Stick looked at her. There's a concept called role sacrifice, when someone voluntarily accepts a role that limits their own growth or freedom for the benefit of the group. Research shows 2 consistent patterns. First, the person who sacrifices rarely says what it costs. They minimize it, redirect, or say nothing. Second, the group rarely asks. They accept the sacrifice with gratitude or relief, but they don't investigate the cost. Both sides collude in a kind of silence around what was given up. Stick thought about Muggsy, about "I know, I know, I know." He said "I know" 3 times. Stick said, "Every time we told him what it meant." "Yes," Lumi said, "he already knew. He decided before the debate started." Stick looked at Muggsy, at the banner beside him, at the base, the chests, the walls, the aisle. "Someone should know where everything is." Stick said, "That's what he said." Lumi said, her glow is warm. "It's true, and it's also not the whole answer." Stick thought about that. "What's the rest of the answer?" Lumi's glow pulsed warm. "Ask him." Stick looked at Muggsy, at the heavy-lidded eye, the arms crossed, the expression that never changed. Looking at the valley where the squad had gone, he walked over. He stood beside Muggsy for a moment without saying anything. Then Muggsy, "Why did you really volunteer?" Long silence. Muggsy said, "Someone has to watch the base while you're all out there doing things that matter." Stick said, "This matters." Muggsy said, "I know." Stick said, Muggsy was quiet for a moment. Then, without looking away from the valley, Muggsy said, "I know where everything is. I built half of it. If something happens out there, if someone needs to come back, they need to know the base is here." "That's not nothing." Stick said, "It's not." They stood there in silence for a while. Lumi's glow from where she sat near the banner pulsed once. Warm. "What would you give up for the group?"